So with the new nerfs coming out probably next week, I'm going to give you the best decks to craft so you can go into the next patch prepared. So the first deck is going to be pure Paladin for two main reasons. One, it's extremely good and simple. So if you're learning how to play the game or you're trying to learn something new going into the next patch, this is going to be very good. It's just you play for the board, you pump up your minions, and then you play the Countess and try to finish off your opponent with that. Second is it's pretty good on a budget. You don't necessarily need Lightblade or Carriel Roam. You can put in other 2-drops in order to keep the pressure up and keep the same flavor of the deck. For example, Argent Protector to give Divine Shield. You could also run Noble Mount to give Divine Shield, or Seafloor Savior for a little bit of extra stats and Dredge. So the next deck on the list is going to be Big Spell Mage, which is a deck I've said is good for a long time, even going back to the last expansion, but it's even better now with Astalar being another good just 2-drop and a new big spell in Arcane Defender, so you're going to consistently get more big spell value. I will say if the meta stays fast after the nerfs, which will probably be to Rogue and Demon Hunter and Hunter, I will say that maybe taking out Arcane Defenders for a school teacher for some extra, more mid-range pressure could be good. But if the meta slows down like I think it will, Arcane Defenders will be absolutely phenomenal. So the next deck on the list is going to be Imp Curselock, which I went 11-4 with the other day, 4 or 5 days ago. And overall, I will say this deck is just good because it's got great early game with the Imp package, good mid and late game with the Curse package, insanely good draw with Dreadlich, Tamsin, as well as the Impending Catastrophe, and a couple of other late game win conditions again, like Tamsin and even Imp King Rafam. So overall, this deck is just one that probably should have been nerfed a while ago, but never was. It kind of slipped through the cracks somehow, and it's remained one of the best decks in the game. I don't think it has fallen below a 51-52% win rate since it was created, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. In fact, I think the win rate's going to go up as other faster decks are getting nerfed. So the next deck on the list is going to be Ramp Druid, which is mostly a prediction deck because I think with the meta slowing down with the nerfs that will probably come out, Ramp Druid will become strong again. I mean, the value has always been there with Wildheart Guff. Like, you're never going to not have the insane late game and OTK potential. The only issue is with games ending around turn 6 or 7, you're very rarely able to get to that point with Druid. But if the game slows down by even 1 to 2 turns on average, those 1 to 2 turns could be the difference between 1 to 3, maybe even 4 mana for a Druid, which could completely swing a game in your favor. So I think Ramp Druid is going to become very strong after the nerfs, but again, this is mostly a prediction. So the next deck on the list is another prediction deck, and that is Triple Blood Death Knight. This deck is one that I think has the potential to be very good because of two main things. One, it's got insane resource generation, so if the meta slows down, you're going to go toe-to-toe, if not outvalue some of these other slow decks. And then you also have enough disruption with Theatar and Patchwork to disrupt slow control or combo decks. Also, value-wise, Alexandros doing 3 damage a turn will slowly kill these slow decks. I will admit, if the meta does end up staying fast, however, you still have good responses. You have Vampiric Blood, you've got some good lifesteal with Death Strike, as well as the No Muncher, and a couple of good early game cards like the Body Bagger and the Cadaver, which are actually pretty good for fighting for the board. I think this deck is critically underrated. I'm 15-10 with it right now, which, although is not the best thing in the world, is not bad either. I mean, that's a 60% win rate with a moderate sample size, and I would highly recommend trying this deck out if you haven't already. Now we're going into the decks that will probably get nerfed, so I'm telling you guys that in advance, but the first one is Frost Death Knight. As far as I'm concerned, this is the least likely one to get nerfed. I think Quest Demon Hunter, Miracle Rogue, and Shockspitter Hunter are all stronger, so this one's probably the safest combo fast deck to craft if you like that style. I do genuinely think this deck is very reliable, and if a lot of the other fast decks are nerfed that were a little bit faster than this, I think that this will become even stronger because one of its biggest weaknesses is it could sometimes lose to like a Miracle Rogue or something that pops off early, or a Shockspitter Hunter, but without those things being as prominent, I think Frost Death Knight has the potential to be very strong. The reason why I don't think it's broken is because it does have limited damage output. If you're not able to get a really good Lady Death Whisper, your damage output is pretty limited, which means Control Warriors, Control Paladins, and Control Blood Death Knights actually have a chance to survive against it, which makes it, in my opinion, at least somewhat balanced. Next most likely deck to get nerfed is Shockspitter Hunter. The reason why I'm putting this as the next most is because I will say at higher ranks, it's not nearly as dominant as it is when you are in like Diamond and Plat. In Diamond and Plat, this deck is insane, the most played, highest win rate. But once you climb the ranks a little bit, Quest Demon Hunter and Miracle Rogue do end up outperforming it. So it really depends on what kind of meta Blizzard wants to nerf. Do they want to nerf or balance around high legend, or do they want to nerf towards the more like diamond, plat, and like low legend area? So I do think Shockspinner Hunter is going to be nerfed, but I think it is slightly less likely to be nerfed than Rogue and Demon Hunter, so it's a little bit safer to craft. The next deck on the list is going to be Quest Spell Demon Hunter, which is on this list because of how dominant it is at high ranks. Games being able to be ended by turn 6 is just not very fun. If you're able to get Lady Steno the turn before with one of your bound souls, and then you play Sinful Brand, and then a ton of cheap spells, Lady Steno can kill you as early as turn 6, like I said, and that's just not very fun to play against. Even though the win rate might not necessarily be super high, if you know what you're doing with this deck, the win rate can go from about 50 to 52% in general to 55 to 60%, if not higher, if you really know what you're doing. And because of that, I think this deck does definitely deserve to be nerfed. But if you want to play a really strong deck before it gets nerfed next Tuesday or Thursday, I would definitely recommend trying this out. And the last deck on the list is going to be Miracle Rogue. Also, Thief Rogue is very strong as well, but I don't think it's as strong as Miracle Rogue, and I think it will also end up being nerfed, especially with Wild Pawn Knoll being a very problematic card. I will say that I think Wild Pawn Knoll being nerfed would kind of destroy the Rogue class, so I don't know if that's the direction they would end up going. But again, just in general, Miracle Rogue and even Thief Rogue are decks that are pretty much guaranteed to be nerfed. Like, there's no way they are not nerfed at this point, so I think it's very risky to craft a Rogue deck right now. But if you really like Rogue and you want to squeeze out a couple of wins in the last couple of days before nerfs, again, this deck will probably be your best bet to do it overall. I mean, this and Shockspinner Hunter, win rates are just absolutely insane. I think they're a little bit more reliable than Spell Demon Hunter in terms of being easier to learn, so it really comes down to what your personal preference is. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Again, the last 4 decks in this video are likely to be nerfed. Frost Death Knight is the least likely, and then Miracle Rogue is the most likely. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.